What's up, everybody? We're back. This is Nicholas.
And Jacob, and this is the Holt perspective.
All right, everybody. So, usually we start off with our favorite workouts of the week, but we have a little switch up today because we're starting up a Holt perspective blog that's going to be coming out on the Instagram. Um, Hopefully, like once a week, maybe every other week. We'll be posting a whole bunch of good little stuff about it. So stay tuned for that. We'll post that very soon. And that's going to have our workouts of the week. So we're just going to go right to the topic that we want to talk about today. And what's that topic, Kobe?
We're talking about the next steps that CrossFit teams could be taking. Just our thoughts, ideas of what could be in the works, what could help CrossFit in some of the kind of problems that a lot of the athletes bring up of being
Yes.
underpaid or
Yeah, when you
yeah.
say teams, what do you mean by teams? Expand on that.
So like the training camps, I guess would be
Oh,
better phrase to put there. So like we're thinking about Mayhem, HWPO, Training Think Tank, all like the big camps out there that
yeah.
are proven, kind of treating them as teams in other sports, in those big sports. So if you're thinking football, baseball, basketball, thinking those as teams, but the training camps here
Yeah.
in the CrossFit realm.
Exactly. I think that's why we already have that, hardwired in our brain of teams like that. Where we grew up playing with teams. We grew up playing baseball, basketball, football, and there was this type of team. And that's one thing that's kind of new, I would say, to both of us on like this idea of CrossFit. And a lot of the times it's pretty like individualized based on um, your own accomplishments. So we kind of have been hearing different things, like you said. People think that they're underpaid. They don't think CrossFit's paying them enough for winning, for coming in 10th place, 20th place, whatever it is. But we have a kind of spin to that whole idea on how we could maybe make, if we were, if we had a perfect world, on how we would try to make CrossFit make the next step in its
Exactly.
so,
Yes.
without a further ado, here's our kind of outline. Um, so we talked about possibly these training camps being just like what Jacob said there, a team. And we kind of try to use the analogy of like the NFL team, even though we know the NFL is far, far, far out. Um, but the NFL is not the people that are paying Patrick Mahomes, who's like the best quarterback in the NFL. He is getting his money from the Kansas City Chiefs, his team, his training camp, right? So we're thinking that in order for this to kind of make the next step, these athletes need to be paid through their top dog training camps. That's the only way, in our opinion, that this sport can truly make the next step. Um, because we can't, we as a, at the athlete side of it, can't expect CrossFit to do everything. We can't expect CrossFit to be the people who run the methodology, who create the workouts, who program the CrossFit games, who pay out the athletes, who come up with the rules. All of this stuff, you're just putting too much power into one thing, and that's just not going to work.
Exactly. They talk about so much of like, oh, the CrossFit has to pay and their HQ needs to pay up and get bigger payouts. But if you just think of it in terms of Patrick Mahomes asks, hey, I want to get a bigger paycheck. Hey, NFL, where's this money coming from? Like you would laugh at him. It would be idiotic. And if people are in the thought process of wanting to make CrossFit more of a sport, more of one of the bigger sports out there and not treating it just as like a way to work out, which it can be, but thinking about more with the people that want it as a sport, talking about the games specifically, you have to treat yourself like a sport as well and think about it in the big picture of things too. You're not going to ask the NFL, MLB, hey, pay me more money. You are going to ask your team. And those high level athletes are all on specific teams for the most part. There are some people that still work out in their garage and more power to them, but that might be a
Very few, though.
tougher sell for them, tougher story for them. But then that gets those people to a different gym and gets them making the training camps bigger. So it's a big draw for the training camps, big draw for the athletes. Seems like it works very well for both on paper.
Right. And yeah, and we just kind of think of it as like there's so many good ways we can go with it. You can have, your top teams, your top training camps, and something that we kind of thought would be really cool is what if like these top training camps got, you know, automatic berths to the CrossFit Games. Like, let's say they go and they place really well at the team level and they win the CrossFit Games at the team level. Well, they should at least get one automatic berth the next year to the CrossFit Games. That is a ton of stuff in especially like you look at, I don't know, a lot of other sports like maybe golf does something similar to like that. But even if they don't do something similar to like that, that'd be a really cool idea. That gives some stock into why am I trying to bring out the best teams all the time is because you get these incentives for it. And then more and more teams want to go and more athletes want to go to this training camp. You get more people, they grow the sport, they grow the brand, more and more people go to Mayhem, more people go to HWPO, more people go to Invictus and so on. I mean, I think it can only grow. Now let's try to talk about downsides because it sounds all good, right? But we got to think about like reasons why this might not work. So,
Yeah.
First thing in he's probably going to be confronted with is like, let's say we look at those middle of the road gyms that aren't like the power places like Mayhem and HWPO and even like Comp Train and all those things. What about those middle of the road gyms that can't handle paying athletes? What do you say to those gyms? Training Think Tank. What do you say to those gyms that are like, we can't handle it like those big dogs? What do you think, Phil?
It definitely is tougher for them. That's where you can very easily, like from the start of this, get into monopolies, and then there's only like 5 teams. But at that point, that's when maybe you put a roster limit to where you can't keep everyone in your camp. You can't have, well, Mayhem HWPO is going to pay you the most, so we're going to get everyone, even the outliers that maybe are going to be good. We're just going to take everyone. We're going to be a monopoly. We get a roster size of, like for your teams, you're allowed to have a total of 5 teams athletes, or 5, so like 20 total athletes there, and then maybe another like 20 individuals. So it would cut down on those big gyms, but then it would allow the medium gyms or the ones that are fighting to really get a big influx of athletes and really high-level athletes flock into their camp.
Right. And I think of like a baseball system, right? You have your MLB team, but then like you have the, AAA, AA, single A, high A, low A, short season, blah, 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 for baseball wise. That could be a huge advantage. Like, let's say, like, Mayhem's like, okay, I only get 2 teams and 5 individual athletes. But I want it. And that gym is, what's the gym that you work at? Like, Worthy, right? But that's where you used to go.
Yeah.
No, you go Worthy right now. Let's say they're like, Worthy is going to be like our high A team, right? And then you get athletes to go there, and then all of a sudden now, like, let's say it doesn't mean just because you're on, Mayhem's AA team, B team, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't mean that those people can't go to the CrossFit Games. That just means they have a different gym that they're out of. And then the top get to go to Mayhem, the top get to go to HWPO, and so on. Those other gyms still get to send teams and people to the CrossFit Games. So if anything, it just kind of like invites more of this, team idea where you can connect these gyms all together. So I don't see that as being a super thing. I do think that point that you brought up is super important. If it was like a free for all and like CrossFit Mayhem could send as many teams as they wanted and as many individuals as wanted, like we might run into a situation where there's like Mayhem and Invictus, and that's it.
Just yeah,
Like, that's
it's
not
just
great.
three
Like, I would
three
say
training
that's
camps.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like that, we can't do that. But I mean, you throw in the top like a cap of that, then you're good. Let's see another thing.
right.
So I would say another downfall is like going on the route of does this destroy the idea of CrossFit and the community of CrossFit, things like that. So what would you say if someone was like, well, this just destroys what CrossFit is?
Right. So, I mean, if you are just an average Joe coming off the street and wanting to join CrossFit, then that does kind of defeat the purpose of doing that. I feel like what the big thing with CrossFit saying that they want to have a CrossFitter at every dinner table saying that they want 25% of the world to be involved in CrossFit. That might get tougher. That might be a tougher sell because if you've got these, like if you're a Mayhem affiliate or HWPO affiliate gym, nowadays that just means that you follow their training, like you follow their training, they make up the workouts, you follow that. But in this alternate universe, being a Mayhem affiliate looks a lot different where it's like we're a Mayhem affiliate because we have these three athletes that are on our competitive team, and it's almost like you have to split your gym in half where you have, all right, this is the competitive side and now this is the class size, and like maybe they feel left out or they don't know what to do, so then they feel discouraged and then they never come again. So that's where CrossFit does not become as welcoming, or everyone gets to join it if this gets into a big part of
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Um, but yeah, and I think that my big response to that is, if you want CrossFit to grow, then okay. So first off, this is already happening. Like, let's be honest. The top guys that are going to the CrossFit Games are not doing daily class with Joey and Sally that are coming in for their once a week CrossFit class. They're just not training together. It doesn't happen anymore. That used to happen in the beginning of CrossFit, but we're already away from that. So using that pushback is just silly. And then like thinking of this, because this was something that Ben Bergeron kind of talked about, because they started to pay their athletes and they didn't think it worked very well because it kind of hurt their methodology and like how it worked. And it was just like people felt as though maybe he thought that people kind of lost the idea of why they're there. But at the same time, if you want CrossFit to be super competitive in a professional sport, that's what it has to turn into. If this is your job, you need to look at it as a business side of it for sure. Like if I'm making a living out of CrossFit, I can't be like, well, I like CompTrain because Ben's a super nice guy. Yes, I might pick CompTrain because of that, but at the same time, if that's my life, we're away from like this whole idea of like, oh, this is like we just pat each other on the back and it's okay. Like if it's gonna be a professional
Yeah.
sport, like professional sports are scary and they suck because like you can be cut and you can lose your job and you got to do something else really fast. But if it wants to make this next step,
Right.
we can't keep saying like, oh, we're just trying to keep the methodology. It's okay for CrossFit to split, but also stay at the same thing. Because yes, they're split into like normal affiliate class and competitive class, but at the same time, the beauty of it is they're still doing the same things. They're still doing toes to bar, and they're still doing muscle ups, and they're still doing clean and jerks. Like that's the cool part about it. That's different about any other sport. Not that Rich Froning is working out with Joe Schmo from Mayhem, CrossFit Mayhem. Maybe it happens every once in a while, but that's not happening very often, and that's okay. I don't think that we're losing anything if
Yeah.
we try to go this route of truly making CrossFit professionalized, because it's not a big deal. It's already happening anyway. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
that's my feeling.
Sometimes you gotta play the devil's advocate, see the other point of view of
You
it.
got
But
it.
yeah, I agree.
You got it. You got to see both sides always, because people are going to come back and there's valuable points each way. But for this one, I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. All right. Well, we only got a little bit of time left, so that was a fun one. Maybe we'll keep talking about it another
It
time.
was.
I'm Nicholas.
I'm Jacob. This is the Holt Perspective. Thanks for joining us today.
Peace.